Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and to my advanced chess theory. Today with the continuation of the King's Indian again against the Saemisch attack with an extraordinary game between Anatoly Karpov with white pieces and Garry Kasparov with the black pieces. The game was played in 1993, and what to say about Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov? I don't want to uh, tell you about their rivalry through the years. They have played so many matches, and their games will stay always in chess history. So, but they are different types of players. Anatoly Karpov is one of the best positional players I've ever seen, and well, he is my favorite player because I like positional play too. But if I would have to say what's the best player in chess history, I would say it is Garry Kasparov because he found always a way to devastate such positional play by players, and he always showed that tactical play and aggressive plays, well, the best way to play chess. But for I don't know, I think they're my favorite players of all time. Of course, you can argue with that, but it's a thing that I watched their games when I was a kid, and there are just a couple of players from my time. So of course, you can say Bobby Fischer is the best player. You can say Magnus Carlsen or even Mikhail Tal or someone else. But they were just players when I started to play chess. And well, it's sort of when someone asks me what's your favorite soccer player or football player, I would say it was like Zinedine Zidane because he was playing football when I was young and when I was playing football. So it's just my opinion. You don't have to take it seriously. Of course, you have probably your favorite chess players, but from this I don't know, from this type of play, I think Karpov is my favorite player, but I think Garry Kasparov is the best player of all time. So in this game, I wanted to show you the Saemisch attack again, but from perspective of black again, and Garry Kasparov was playing this game so aggressive, and when I analyzed this game, he had again no mistakes and no blunders. So it was a perfection sort of against this positional approach from Anatoly Karpov, and it's one of the best Saemisch attack games I've ever seen. So let's see the game. Anatoly Karpov opened with d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight on c3, e4, d6, and now again f3, castling, bishop to e3, e5. Again, this delaying approach from knight to g to e2. But now Garry Kasparov plays even a more flexible line than knight on c6. It's the move c6, and it's a similar move to the a6. It also prepares the b5, but of course black's idea is maybe to go queen to c7, then play rook on d8. But the problem from black's perspective here is always the d6 pawn, and after queen to d2 and rook to d1, this would be sort of a weakness. So Garry Kasparov found a really great way how to handle this weakness with a simple pawn sacrifice, but with the initiative on the attack. And I don't think in such aggressive lines he don't mind the pawn to be down. So let's see, queen to d2 was played. Now knight from b to d7. Of course, here another protection of this e5. Now comes this rook to d1, and it's this again. I've showed you this in my previous videos. This setup with the rook and the queen on the d file with an aggressive way, with this bishop developed. Still nothing happened in the center, so moves to play in the center. The center has to be cleared. And now Garry Kasparov plays a6 with the support to play b5. He plays simply straightforward and aggressive, and now Karpov took on e5, and Garry Kasparov took with the knight, not with the pawn, and with an attack of this c4. At least one tempo. Karpov had to react and played, of course, the move b3. But now you see Garry Kasparov plays in his aggressive way. He leaves this d6 pawn hanging, and but you will see that this d6 is not so important anymore, because it's black after taking on d6. It's black on the attack, and that's simply Garry Kasparov's style. He wants to be on the attacking side, and he doesn't want to lose any tempo. So b5 still straightforward and aggressive, and after taking now Karpov took on with the queen on d6. Of course, now with the pawn down, black is not interested to trade queens, so he played knight from f to d7. So what to say about this position now? Of course, white is the pawn up, but he has development problems. He has to move his knight, he has to move his bishop and castle. So then with the pawn up, he would be on the advance. But Garry Kasparov plays simply on this undevelopment, and I told you before, it can be a problem. When you play aggressive against the Saemisch attack, it can be a problem for white for not developed so fast. So if white could have castle now, he would be, of course, on the advance, but that's not what happened. After f4, I think it was the first mistake that Karpov made. It's really again weakening the king side, and with the king in the center. Garry Kasparov, of course, he always finds a way. Well, he doesn't react simply if he gets attacked. He doesn't go back. He goes forward also. So he plays b4. So let's see the continuation. If f takes e5 now, then Garry Kasparov would simply take. Now, if the queen takes the pawn on c6 with an attack on the rook, then the rook comes simply into the game, and after taking maybe the pawn, this would be sort of a pin on the queen. And I promise you, Garry Kasparov has probably calculated all that stuff, and he can calculate multiple moves. So when he played the World Championship against Karpov, and he won the match, finally he had shown many great calculations, and in this sort of complex position, he is probably on the advance against such a positional player like Karpov. So the continuation would be okay, then trade rooks, and now the knight would come into the game effectively, and maybe something like queen to b5, simple development on the bishop. You see the coordination now of the pieces. White has still not developed, maybe bishop on e2, preparing castling, but now the queen would simply prevent that, prevent castling, and you see now the activity of black's pieces, while white's pieces are not so active. Of course, the rook can come to the a file or maybe on the d file, create an attack. So you see this rook hasn't played, so black's obvious on the advance. So now if white tries something like maybe knight on f2 to simply castle, then black would simply take on this e4, and after casting, bishop to d7 and attacking the queen, and the bishop would be hanging, and of course, that's the continuation. The best for white would be simply to attack the queen, but then simply black would be better for the exchange. So let's see. The game in the game was played knight on b1, and you see now how many pieces white has on the first rank. Still these development problems, although pawn up, but development problems are serious problems in chess. So you see how problematic this Saemisch attack can be for white with this f3, with this uncoordinated knight, and that's preventing the bishop to play. So now Garry Kasparov played knight on g4 with an attack on the bishop, and white probably thought that if black takes on d4, then he can get simply to castle. But that's not, of course, Garry's style. He doesn't want in this position to let white castle. So after take, now rook to a2, he gets his pawn back, but that's not the point here. His rook is in the most active square, and it's really annoying here. It's really attacking white's defense. And now after queen to g4, and then again we see by Garry Kasparov, if he gets attacked, he doesn't go simply back with the piece, he goes forward for himself. So that's a huge strategic idea. When you're an aggressive player, you don't want to always go back. If you get attacked, you have to try to attack back. So your idea has to be attacking play, not to be too defensive. You see now the queen has to react, and of course now you go knight on f6, and it's a whole different position now, because the queen is out of play, and it's in a really bad square. And now comes e5. Okay, white thought maybe that he has here a good position. Now he has sort of a central pawn structure that allows him to play like that. But now you see white's pieces come simply into the game again on the most active squares after knight on e4. Well, this was sort of, I don't know, maybe his idea to play on this simply h5, then go with the queen on h2 and create an attack on this h7 with mating threats. But again, Garry Kasparov, in his attacking style, he plays simply straightforward. Again, he doesn't react on white's activity, and he plays c4. Now came this knight on c1, and this is the critical moment in this game. And you see now again, black gets attacked, but he reacts in this I don't know, in this historical style. It's something that only a couple of players can do. I don't know, like Fischer, like Mikhail Tal, like Kasparov. They are simply in chess history. This I don't know, many not so many players can do that like Garry Kasparov can do it. And after the rook knight on c1, you see the rook is attacked, but black plays again against this bad setup of white's pieces. You see all of his pieces are on first rank, and when you're like an attacker like Garry Kasparov, and he feels sort of the position, and he knows that he probably know that something's wrong here for white, and he goes straight forward c3, and that's amazing stuff. Now white took on the rook, and now came c2 with the attack on the rook and on the knight. And now you see white has multiple choices here, but let's see if he plays rook to c1. Then comes this stunner, and it's knight takes on e5. You see again, white's a rook up, but his rook isn't playing, so that's equal material if you ask me. So it's not the rook up, it's equal material now with the pawn down, because this rook will never come into the game, and that's how you should calculate in chess. So this rook is not playing, this bishop is not playing. So you see now with the sacrifice, this bishop gets into the, pardon me, this bishop gets into the game, and with this unsupported square of d1, this square will be this square would be, if the continuation would have played like that. So now if the rook takes, bishop to g4 comes, and with a simple threat of mating. So now if knight on d2 comes, then the continuation would be simply check, white has to take, and white has to give up his rook again, because if he plays maybe something like rook to b2, then it's rook to b2, then he gets simply mated. So he has to react, he has to play knight on c3, and of course here is a clear winning game for black. So let's see in this position, if the rook comes to d2, then knight takes, and with this discovered attack on the king, white would have to come to with the king on f2. Then of course here is this simply check here with queen to d4, and it's mate for white. So you see, if he takes, then the continuation would be taking on e5. Now this would be check, and if he goes to h2, white has a really great mate here. It's on h3 mate. So if he goes to takes, then the continuation would be here f6, and this would be mate. So I'm sure Garry Kasparov has calculated all that, because I've told you he's one of the best tacticians in history. And after this move, queen to d4, and after white played queen to d4 instead of reacting here with the rook to c1. So now he simply took, and now is black is interested to trade queens now, because now his rook comes really active into the game. Again, you see this rook hasn't played, and now came the king on c2, and now knight on f2. So the rook has reacted, and here is where Karpov resigned, because if he moves the rook, then he would be mated, because now bishop to f5 comes, and he would, if he goes with the knight, then here, and this would be mate. So you see very active play by black, and this was one of my favorite games of Garry Kasparov, because he played so aggressive, he found these tactical shots, and I think he was happy to play this game against his main rival, but their games were always great. If they even ended in a draw or something, I liked always his games, their games. But this was one of the best games they played each other. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this Saemisch variation from black's perspective. It was really opening, very aggressive opening line, and you see no blunders made by Kasparov, no mistakes, and that's when I'm analyzing his game, he's always like playing like a computer, and that's the beauty of him. So thank you for watching, guys, and see you next time, and chess is the best.